I pray you all give your audience and hear this matter with reverence. By figure, a moral play, the summoning of Everyman called it is, that of our lives an ending shows how transitory we be all day. The matter is wonder precious, but the intent of it is more gracious and sweet to bear away. The story saith, man, in the beginning look well, and take good heed to the ending. Be you never so gay, you think sin in the beginning full sweet, which in the end causeth the soul to weep. When the body lieth in clay, here shall you see how fellowship and jollity, both strength, pleasure, and beauty, will fade from thee as flower in May. For ye shall hear how our heaven King calleth every man to a general reckoning. Give audience, and hear what he doth say. So begins the play, Summoning of Everyman, or Everyman, as it's come to be known. Now, Everyman is probably the most famous of medieval plays. And it's that way because, well, it was one of the most published plays of the time. In fact, it's thought that Everyman was read more than it was performed during the 16th century. So it's considered to be written around 1510. Okay? So at that time, there are no performance records in England of Everyman to speak of. And so the thought is that it was read quite a bit. So it was a play that was known by audiences as well as readers at the time. But the play really has enjoyed great popularity in the 20th century. I haven't heard that much about it now, but it's done a lot in churches. And if you go to church, and if you're part of your church, and if you bring your talents to your church, this is a great play to do in the sanctuary of your church in front of an audience. It's very simple to do. Costuming is really all you need. You might want to put God up in the choir loft and put the grave down there on the floor somewhere. It'd be great to have a coffin and things of that nature, because it is about death, right? Every man is summoned by death to his grave so that he can pass on into the next life. And so while he's doing this, every man wants to take some friends along with him. Turns to find out he didn't have very many friends. Everybody abandons him. All his goods, all his friends, his cousin even, because he has a broken toe. He won't go with him. The only one that wants to accompany him are good deeds. So there's a little bit of Christian doctrine in this play, in this morality play. Now, as you know, morality plays, medieval plays, were of several types. They were called mysteries, they were called miracle plays, they were called morality plays. The whole thing together were basically mystery plays. The mystery of God, the mystery of grace, the mystery of heaven, the mystery of death, and those kinds of things. But specifically, miracle plays were about the life of Jesus, and the mystery plays were more about God and creation and things of that nature. And then, of course, there's the morality plays. Now, this comes shortly before the advent of Elizabethan era and Shakespeare, okay? And again, we see this sort of the King's English, the Henry VIII version of the Bible kind of language, thee and thou, and so forth and so on. That is coming into vogue. Now, Everyman has an allegorical structure, and we talked about this in class about a little bit in class concerning what an allegory means and its representative quality. It stands for much more than what meets the eye, of course. Characters, objects, actions present abstract concepts principles and conveys a moral lesson. Um, provided English playwrights with a useful framework for examining these and other social and philosophical issues in the turbulent years, these turbulent years. Now, Everyman is, it's pretty much totally focused on death. And one of the interesting things about the Middle Ages, in case you didn't know, is that in the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, before the Middle Ages, in the 1300s, they had a thing called the Black Death, which was a terrible plague that killed 1/3 of the population of Europe. 1/3. Now, you remember what happened to New Orleans and Katrina when the whole city had to evacuate. Okay, and basically, in the first month or 2 months after people started return, the city had lost about 1/3 of its people, and 1/3 of the houses were empty, if not more. That's pretty much what it was like after the plague, and people were constantly worried about dying, getting ready to die. What does it take to die, and so forth. Okay, there was a lot in the medieval era in Germany and Netherlands and England about how to get ready for it, how to die. There was another play, a French play called The Dance of Death, and it originated actually in Germany and in dramatic form, and it was performed in England too. Okay, it was, and in this Dance of Death, it's sort of like the Day of the Dead in Mexico. It's a preoccupation with death, the kind of wanting to be able to talk to death, to see death, to be in communion with death. Okay, so it's always before us. I think in our modern times, you can think, do we think about death that much? Sure, we hear about people being killed in Middle East and in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and these places where conflict is high, and also New Orleans, where we hear every day almost people getting killed in some kind of gunfire in the neighborhoods. But does it really touch us, and do we really think that much about it? I don't think so. And I think if we did worry much about it, a lot of it might end. At least for the people who are involved in that sort of thing. But in medieval times, so many people were dying. So many people were, whole families were being decimated. People were being orphaned, and children dying like flies. I mean, there's so many people dying all the time that this preoccupation was heavy. How do you die? How do you have a good death? And so we have this play, Everyman. Of course, Everyman represents all of humanity, okay? And there's other things about human, what do we have in our lives? What makes up our lives? Like we have stuff, and we have our relatives, and we have our father and our mother, and we have cousins, and we have our career. You could personify a career, and then when you're going to die, what do you take with you? It's a great thought. What do you carry with you from there on? I had the opportunity to see Everyman and to be in Everyman several times throughout my career, and it's a great play because the thing about Everyman is everybody understands it almost from the beginning of the play, even children. That's what makes it such a great play for doing in the church, for example. And it's a great thought-provoking play, but people do identify right away with it. What if you're confronted with the idea that here's death coming to you and say, come on, it's time to go. And you say, wait a minute, I don't want to go. Can I bring somebody with me? He says, well, if you got anybody who'll come, sure, go ahead, try. And what would you be faced with? What you could bring? Okay, even the richest man on earth is going to die. and the poorest man on earth is going to die. And they're going to wind up with the same things that they had in life. Now, the philosophy and the theology of the time said, we bring with us our good deeds. What we do good in life comes with us. This is a theme that reflects in just about all religions. Karma, for example. You know, what we do and leave in our past catches up to us in the future. So if we do good deeds, it's going to do well for us in the future. If we don't lay this groundwork of a good life, then we're not going to have a good death. And we're not going to make it to the heaven, whatever that is, our place in heaven. So Everyman is also a very good look at the Catholic process of confession, for example. It's interesting about knowledge. He meets up with knowledge. Good deeds says, I want to go with you, but I can't. I'm too weak because he's sinned. His good deeds are weighed down by that sin. They can't come with him. So he has to go through a process of knowledge, acknowledging morality and acknowledging what he's done and then seeking forgiveness. So that's what the knowledge they're talking about. They're not talking about knowledge of the world and science and so forth. They're talking about your moral knowledge. Do you have moral knowledge? And then, of course, they have confession comes in, and then all the rites, the Catholic rites of, they call it the last rites, actually, where you're anointed for death, and finally you die. And so it's a great play, and I hope you have a good time reading it. And it's one of the great classics of English literature and world literature, for that matter. So I'm going to end it with the epilogue, okay? And in the epilogue, this doctor of the faith comes in. Usually, probably, it represents kind of a bishop, you know, a doctor of the theology, okay? And he comes in at the end. If you haven't already read this, here it is. This moral men may have in mind. Ye hearers, take it of worth, old and young, and forsake pride, for he deceiveth you in the end. And remember, beauty, 5 wits, strength, discretion, they all at the last do every man forsake, save his good deeds, and there doth he take. But beware, for, and they be small, before God he hath no help at all. None excuse may be there for every man. Alas, how shall he do then? For after death amends may no man make, for then mercy and pity doth him forsake. If his reckoning be not clear, when he doth come, God will say, Ite maledicti in ingem aeternum, which means, go, ye cursed, into everlasting fire. And he that hath his account whole and sound, high in heaven shall he be crowned, unto which place God bring us all thither, that we may live body and soul together, there to help the Trinity. Amen, say ye, for Saint Charity. And that's how Everyman ends, as you know. And so, pay attention to the assignment, complete the assignment. After reading the introduction, take the quiz. That's on www.norton.com/drama, and do an action analysis of this play with this in mind. Be interesting to see what you think the seed might be, and what the through action, the counter through action is. It's fairly clear, I think. Okay, so have a good time reading it. Complete that assignment, and that will be our class for Monday, October 7th. Thank you very much.